Adrian Wooley is a Louisville Cardinal.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering the University of Louisville, third year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the Locked On Louisville podcast is free and available on all streaming services, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Louisville needed to go out and make a splash in the transfer portal, and they did so by bringing in one of the best players in the portal. Kennesaw State star Adrian Wooley is a Louisville Cardinal. Huge addition to next year's team. We'll discuss what he brings to the table. We'll discuss the Isaac McNeely recruitment, seemingly down between Louisville and Tennessee. More on that coming up shortly. And also, Nate Ament has pushed his commitment date back and why this is not good news for the Louisville Cardinals. So a lot of recruiting talk on the show today. I was actually in the second segment of Mondays with Dalton Pence, which is my radio show that airs from 6 to 7 on Mondays on Big X Sports Radio. And Roman Kelly, my co-host and producer, played a breaking news sound clip. And I'm sitting there, and I didn't really realize what it was at the time. And then he had broke the news that Adrian Wooley had committed. And I completely shocked. Now, this was always a possibility, but I felt like with the more time that went on from his visit, the less likely it would be that he would be a Cardinal. Ty Spalding said that. I didn't want to really allude to it on the show, but after he committed, I went ahead and gave props to Ty. He basically put on his Louisville Rivals message board that if Wooley didn't commit on Monday, he likely wasn't going to, because it would mean that Auburn and Alabama had done enough to delay the announcement. And if it was going to get to the visits with those two schools, I didn't like Louisville's chances. But the Cardinals pull off the commitment, and what a statement it was from Pat Kelsey and company. A huge splash and absolutely seismic addition for next year's team. Adrian Wooley was the Conference USA Freshman of the Year. He was a first-team all-conference selection, averaging 18.8 points a game, 5.2 rebounds a game, 3.6 assists per game, and 1.4 steals per game. On those shooting numbers, 51% from the field, really good. 42% from the three-point line, really good. And the free throw numbers, 77%, excuse me, can definitely improve there, but this is a big-time addition. A player that many analysts out there had coined one of, if not the best, mid-major guard in college basketball. And it would be a big deal if you got a senior, making these contributions and having this level of production. But when you go out and you get a freshman that has done this right away, and Wooley was a diamond in the rough prospect, ranked just outside of the top 300, but goes to Kennesaw State, has one of the best seasons for a freshman in Conference USA history, according to Gary Parrish from CBS. Now, there might be some out there that say, well, is he going to be an automatic star no matter what next year? I mean, a freshman playing against lower level competition, he's going to have to polish his game moving forward. That goes without saying, but a lot of development for college basketball players occurs between the freshman to sophomore offseason. And if he's able to improve between this season and next year, I mean, we're talking potentially number one scorer for the Cardinals next year. But I would argue to also say that, yeah, he's playing lower level competition, but he's doing it really efficiently. Now, Kennesaw State was somewhat top half of the Conference USA. They didn't make the NCAA tournament, but he shot 51% from the field on just over 12 attempts. That's really good. 5.2 3-point attempts per game, where he shot 42% from behind the arc. Again, that's really good. So it's not like he was a volume scorer on somewhat low efficiency numbers. This is a guy that might be viewed as a tweener in NBA draft circles, which could help for Louisville in the long run because you could get multiple years of Wooley in Cardinal red. But there is a reason why he is one of the few 5-star transfers in the rankings currently. He is the number 3 best transfer according to 24/7 Sports. Now, this could change with the addition of other players in the portal, but it's not going to change to the point to where he's not viewed as one of the elite players in the portal. So this is a splash level addition. Of course, Adrian Wooley is from Alabama, Tuscaloosa, to be more exact. So to get the first visit, to make a statement and get him to commit before he's even able to go back to his home state to visit 2 really good SEC programs that have used a ton of NIL. They've gotten big-time transfers, and they have a ton of success. Auburn's in the Final Four. Alabama was in the Elite Eight. To be able to sell Wooley on the vision that you have and to be competitive in the NIL portion of this is really impressive from the Louisville coaching staff. As a fit, Wooley reminds me, I don't want to go and say James Harden as much as I want to as a Rockets fan. He is a lefty, though. He's a really nice, shooting form. Gives me sort of like Terrence Edwards Jr. vibes in the way that he drives to the basket. He'll put the ball on the hardwood. Looked a little out of control at times, but he flips up a shot and he makes it, and it's like, okay, do it again. It's that controlled chaos aspect that reminds me a lot of Edwards. But the offensive game is growing. He had to be the go-to guy for Kennesaw State. I think he's going to join a Louisville team that already has players that demand other defenses' attention. I mean, he's going to step into a backcourt with Mikel Brown Jr., who is going to be able to get him the basketball, be that lead facilitator, set him up with some open looks, and take away some of the defensive attention on Wooley, unlike what he saw this year, where Adrian was the go-to guy on that Owls team. He possibly still could be that guy for Louisville. I'm not saying he's not going to be. I think there's a very real possibility that he's a 15 points a game scorer, or points per game scorer for the Cardinals, which would be really good. We saw how Pat Kelsey was able to unlock a new level for Chucky Hepburn, going from really good starting point guard to one of the best point guards and one of the best scoring guards in the country. Think about what he could do for a player like Adrian Wooley, who is going to just be a sophomore. There's a ton of potential there. So, I mean, this is significant. Wooley's really good as a ball handler in the pick and roll situations. I think 83rd percentile, which is nothing to shake your head at. I think he's going to be a really good secondary ball handler and secondary creator on the court with Mikel. I like the fit there. I'm interested to see what it looks like defensively, but this was a team that needed more shooting. You got that, 41% from 3. You needed the ability to put the ball on the floor and get to the basket. Well, you got that. You also got a player that likes to crash the boards, averaged 5.2 rebounds a game. That's really solid for a 6'5" guard. and I think he's only going to get better. So the main concern is how much those skills are going to translate to the Power Five. And my main rebuttal to that is that he did all of this as a freshman on really efficient shooting numbers. So all the signs point to, him going to be really good at the Power Five level too. And if that doesn't ease some of your concerns, look at all the teams that reached out to him. I mean, Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky, the list goes on. And I'm just naming a couple off my head. Houston, Illinois, looking at this list here. Excuse me. It's just, man, this is a wild. Okay, I'm looking at this now. Kansas, Missouri, Tennessee, BYU, Virginia, Clemson, Ole Miss, Oklahoma State, Georgia, Georgia Tech. There's a lot of schools that were saying, you know what, this is one of the best mid-major guards in the country. Let's go get him. And for Pat Kelsey to get the first visit, to put the money where the mouth is, and follow up from that On3 report suggesting that you had a ton of resources to utilize and going out and making it happen and getting the results. I think that's what everyone wanted to see you do. And you put yourself in a really good position moving forward, getting closer to the dead period. And you allow Louisville fans to feel a lot better about where they sit at because you made a splash and you got a backcourt running mate for Mikel Brown Jr. But they did host another player this weekend, Virginia transfer Isaac McNeely, which we discussed a little bit on Friday. Well, a little bit of a curveball in that recruitment. The Cardinals are still in it, but it doesn't seem like as a sure thing as it used to be. Could Louisville bring in both Wooley and McNeely? How would that work on the court, and how likely would it be that he even commits to the Cardinals in the first place? Well, we'll answer those questions when we come back on this edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Monarch Money is what I've been using as my personal CFO, giving myself full visibility and control over my finances. Because sometimes I check my bank account and wonder, I was like, dude, where's all my money at? Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app for me. It's a complete financial command center where I can track all my accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So I am no longer managing my money. I'm starting to build my wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, I use Monarch to check finances, track spending, and even plan my long-term goals. Take the control of your finances with Monarch Money using the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. Also, at this time, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends and the title sponsor of the show, Gametime. Look, I am a full believer that there's not much better than watching your favorite team live and feeling the energy of the crowd and being able to witness unforgettable moments. And that means that getting tickets to those moments shouldn't be stressful. That's where Gametime comes in, making it easier to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Gametime Picks makes it easier to find better value tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theaters, etc. I love the panoramic views from your seat that you can get with seat views before you buy with no surprise fees and a lowest price guarantee you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It was an eventful weekend for the Louisville men's basketball program. They hosted Adrian Wooley on Friday heading into Saturday, and also Virginia transfer Isaac McNeely arrived on Saturday and visited to Sunday. McNeely has been a very poorly kept secret in terms of mutual interest between the two. And to see the Cardinals maybe not being so much in the driver's seat as we thought, it hurts to accept this time last week, it felt like it was Louisville and North Carolina, Louisville, North Carolina, Louisville, North Carolina, with a potential return to Virginia. And then North Carolina exited and enter the Tennessee Volunteers. And Travis Branham of 24/7 Sports was adamant. Joe Tipton was adamant. I think that it was both of those reporting it, that he was going to take the Tennessee official visit. And he arrived in Knoxville Monday night. He has the official visit on Tuesday. I would expect that a decision will come at the conclusion of that visit before the dead period hits on April 3rd. I would imagine that a commitment will be announced this week. So we will have an idea of what Isaac decides to do by the time that next week rolls around. Now, it's not always like this, and it might end up being this way. But at the moment, there hasn't been much rumor about NIL packages, that Tennessee is just kind of blowing Louisville out of the water in this. So I would imagine that both teams probably have the financial packages that would make sense for McNeely. It's more so which situation fits him better. And I'm going to be honest, Tennessee's a pretty interesting fit because they're not really bringing many players back next year. So it depends on what he's prioritizing. Is he wanting to be the number one option? Well, then Tennessee might be the spot. Does he want to go to a place where he's going to fit seamlessly into the offense? There were rumors that Rain Smith was involved in the visit with Pat Kelsey and Isaac McNeely, which would be sort of like the poster child for what your role is going to be here. Hey, look, become one of the best shooters in the country here, and while also playing with Mikel Brown Jr. and Adrian Wooley, potentially Kason Pryor, and other good players, and let's make a run in the tournament. Look, I know that Tennessee has never been to a Final Four, but Rick Barnes' program is still a really good program. They make runs in the tournament. He has a pretty good example sheet of shooting guards coming to Tennessee and succeeding. Dalton Connect, Chaz Lanier in back-to-back seasons. So not really a hard sell on the role you could play. It's just a matter of what he's prioritizing. I think ultimately it's 50-50. The hope is that he doesn't get wowed on his visit to Rocky Top and he says, you know what? It was a great visit. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go to Louisville. That's the hope. And I had some people ask me after the Wooley commit, would you still take McNeely? 100% without a doubt. I'm not even thinking twice because I think that all three of him, or of those two transfers, and Mikel Brown Jr. are going to be able to fit in the backcourt at the same time because you're going to have size in the front court. McNeely 6'4", Wooley 6'5", Mikel Brown 6'3". It's not a small backcourt. Defensively, you have to wonder about the fit, but you're going to have a ton of shooting, great passers on the court, guys that can put the ball in the hardwood and get to the basket, guys that can operate the pick and roll. It's going to be a matchup nightmare for defenses. You just saw a backcourt this year. Chucky Hepburn, Terrence Edwards, Rain Smith. Sort of the same thing, but I'm not going to say better. No one's going to upgrade over Chucky Hepburn. I do think Isaac McNeely is an upgrade over Rain Smith. I think potentially, now the injuries kind of hurt, but that backcourt with the three that you could potentially bring in might be a better backcourt than what you had. And that is wild to say. That is absolutely wild to say. I'll say this. I don't worry about the fit. The main concern that I might have is going back to the priority thing. Does Isaac want to be like the go-to scorer? Does he want to be the number one option? Because maybe the commitment of Adrian Wooley makes him kind of sit there like, I don't know. But you can't tell me Tennessee's not going to try to do the same thing. So, I hate that he's taking the Tennessee visit. because I think Tennessee is an easier sell for McNeely than potentially North Carolina, even though he grew up being a fan of the Tar Heels, because I think that you can argue that, well, the Tar Heels accumulate all this talent, but they don't really have much to show for it outside of a fluke national championship game run back in 2022. Like, they have consistently underperformed since then. Tennessee's kind of hard to say that. There's running jokes about not being able to make the Final Four and Rick Barnes' tournament shortcomings, but it's still a really good program. You're playing in the SEC. You're playing against the best teams in the country from a conference perspective, and all the attention's on you. So something to monitor as we go throughout the week. We also got some other recruiting news on Monday that Nate Ament would be pushing his commitment date back. And I see the other side of the argument, guys, but I'm going to be honest, this is not good news for our Louisville Cardinals, and I'm going to explain when we come back. But first, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. For trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's on supplyhouse.com. Cardinal fans, thanks again for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the show is free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Got some news on Monday that some had been scared to hear, but ultimately it came to fruition. Nate Ament announced that he would be pushing his commitment date back. When asked when that would be, some thought it might be after the McDonald's All-American game. I think it was Adam Zagoria that reported this. If I'm wrong, then forgive me. But Nate Ament does not have a date currently in mind. That's not good news for Louisville, because for the Cardinals, they've been in this lull for the past couple of months of just being the victim of having to hurry up and wait to see what Nate Ament wants to do. It's been rumored out there that Duke and Louisville have been pretty solid on their financial packages, and they haven't altered them much. The final offers have seemingly been the final offers. Well, Louisville has made that offer aware to Ament. I can't imagine a world where Pat Kelsey hasn't, in extensive detail, explained what his role would be, how he would fit into the offense, how he could help his career, and much more. The Cardinals have, no pun intended, pushed their cards and chips into the middle of the table and said, all in. Well, he was supposed to commit at 3 o'clock, April 1st, which is here in less than 24 hours, and he pushes the commitment back. I guess it could be that he's completely torn, although I don't think that's it to an extent. I think there might be a reason why he's completely torn. But Louisville's done everything that they can do. It comes down to, can you afford to wait? And if you don't have a commitment date in mind, then I think Louisville honestly just needs to say, you know what, we'll still recruit you unless we find the players in the portal to take your spot. They need to really give him an ultimatum. That would be just my opinion. Say, hey, look, we went out and we got Adrian Wooley. We might go get some other players. If you don't commit by this day, there's a chance that we might have to, say thanks, best of luck to you, but we've got to move in a different direction, because despite how many players are in the portal currently, you just can't sit around and be at the mercy of one decision, even when that decision, I would argue, hasn't looked the greatest in your favor. I know that there are local sources out there, there's national sources that will really go out there and say that the Cardinals are right there with Duke. They might even lead. That I'm okay with that. That's your information. It seems like to me, my intuition, just from what I'm piecing together logically, he's waiting to see who leaves and who stays from this Duke roster. Putting the pieces together, Brian Windhorst meme. Now, why would he do that? Why would he push a commitment date back? It's April 1st. We're getting closer and closer to the time where he has to report to campus. We're a couple months away, but almost everyone has committed by now. And then he pushes the date back with no specific commitment date in mind, while Duke is still in the NCAA tournament, going to the Final Four, and you don't have any type of decision for players like Isaiah Evans, who could be a guy who he waits to see if he leaves or not. Seems like the Boozer twins are going to stay. Could Shelton Henderson stay? Well, very potentially. Could Duke go out and get some other players in the portal? Possibly. But it seems clear that the Cardinals are second fiddle at the moment. Now, some will argue, well, he saw Donovan Mitchell's video and it caused him to delay his announcement. I was like, I don't know, man. One video from a star NBA player, I don't think is going to cause you to just completely uproot your decision and schedule it for TBD. I don't see it, because it's not a matter of who he's waiting to see who gets added. Louisville has the role cut out for him. He's just waiting to see who, in my opinion, who leaves Duke and who stays. Another thing that I wouldn't write off here, I think Arkansas is still lurking here. And with the commitment date pushed back, it gives John Calipari more time that if they miss out on some guys, if they say, you know what, we're going to put all of our eggs in this recruitment basket. And then they go with their deep NIL pockets and they make a Godfather offer to where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go play for Coach Cal. It wouldn't shock me in the slightest if Arkansas ends up winning this recruitment, because there could be a reality where Duke might play themselves out of it because of who comes back or who is brought in. Maybe it's Louisville and Arkansas. And Arkansas is like, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to make a Godfather offer, and Louisville either can't or won't match it. Or maybe it's a situation where Louisville has already filled those spots and Duke doesn't really have the playing time that he wants, and he decides to go to Arkansas for a similar package. I think it's been Louisville Duke at the top for a while, but stranger things have happened in recruiting. They will continue to be wild because that's the way that this transfer portal NIL era has designed them to be. There's so much money that's getting thrown out there. There's no regulation surrounding any of this, so we're all just kind of going with the motion and learning on the fly. And I mean, sure, could he end up committing to Louisville? Yeah, he could. I just don't think that he's going to at this point. Maybe I'm wrong. I could very well be wrong. This is all based upon intuition. But I'm not going to sit here and give you all false hope. I'm not going to do that. I think him moving his commitment date back was not a good thing for the Louisville Cardinals, because you have to think about why he moved it back. Who broke that announcement, by the way? Adam Rowe from the Duke 24/7 site. A lot of updates coming from Duke's side. Somewhat radio silence from Louisville's side, but I would imagine that Nate Ament is probably a Blue Devil at some point. So that's okay if Louisville just channels that NIL to another player or players. We will monitor the portal and this recruitment as we go on through the next couple days, next couple weeks. But that's going to wrap up this edition of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.